Hello Ratbags, it's Jade once back again with another grounded guide. The hot and hazy update is now live. Antlions are here, but what can you get from the Antlions? I'm going to show you where to find them, how to defeat them, and what you can make with them. Let's go, leave a like, make sure you subscribe for the best in survival and grounded content, and let's go. Okay, I'm going to say it right now. I'm not showing you on the map where the sandbox is. You should be able to see it from pretty much anywhere as long as you get a bit of height. And that's where you're going to find sandlions. You've got these roamers that run around the sandbox and they'll come out the ground whenever you come close by. They can move around and they're pretty hard to dodge sometimes. So you've really got to get away or make sure you've got a shield to block them with. On top of that, of course, being in the sandbox, it means that you're going to be taking sizzle damage if you haven't got the right armour or you've not got fresh defence. If you get the mutation high enough, it can actually give you protection in the sandbox. So, once you've got that established, it's time to run around and try and kite these guys. You don't really want to mess with more than one at once, as you can see right here. The best thing to do is to go pretty slowly, and when you hear that call, run away and get a good safe distance, or try and make sure at least not two of them. When they go underground, they will let you know with a little scream, and then that's when you know to block if you're trying to get a perfect block. If you're lucky enough to have a roly-poly armour set, you can get the extra bonus of just defending, and that will also help you stun some of the creatures. But otherwise, you're going to have to just really learn to perfectly block. They do have a couple of attacks where they'll whack you with your pincers and do a side sort of attack too. And they are most prone to salty weapons, so you can use a bunch of different weapons on these guys. As long as it's got salt equipped on it, you're going to do a lot better. Now these guys really hate black ants, so if there's a couple nearby, try and kite it over and they'll help you out. Another top tip, don't try and stand on its back or it will fling you in the air. Now obviously it doesn't seem that bad right here, but it could potentially give you extra damage and take you away from actually doing some damage against them. When they do rise out of the ground, that area effect is pretty large as you saw, so you can only really run full pelt or make sure you're defending. There's been a bunch of times that I thought I was far enough away and I still managed to get kicked by it. Sometimes they'll even actually jump closer and emerge really close to you. So don't assume because one's burrowed somewhere a little bit further away, they're not actually going to catch up to you. Salt is their absolute nemesis, use it as much as possible. If you use anything else like fresh, spicy or mighty, you won't get the same effect. Now they take quite a lot of damage from slashing, so slashing is one-handed and two-handed swords. I'm using the lava blade here and I've got fresh on it so you can see how little damage it's kind of doing. Here's what's happened when I use the mighty damage to try and take these guys out. Now in terms of stun, they can be stunned and they can be stunned pretty easily with clubs. Now supposedly the resistance to clubs is pretty high, but I found actually clubs were doing a lot of much damage. I've got no mutations on in any of the footage that you're seeing also. But let me just finish off by showing you the salty one-handed blade and look how much more damage it will do in a second, just as I try and get used to blocking. Only 4 hits and we've already brought it down nearly a lot. Now obviously I'm getting attacked by 2 of them here, and that's why you really want to just make sure you're only getting done by 1. Where the rest of the elemental types maybe do half a grid, salty does nearly about 75% I would say, so it's definitely worth investing in a salty weapon. So like I said, you can go ahead and use different weapons on these guys. Unlike a lot of the other creatures, sometimes they really won't take any damage from something like piercing damage, which is on spears, or maybe blunt damage or mighty hammer damage. But these guys, they're pretty versatile in terms of what you can hit them with. Again, as long as you've got salt equipped to the weapon, you will do a huge amount of damage. Look at this tier 2 hammer. Yes, it's max upgraded, but I have managed to stun it once, and that's pretty good. Some of the creatures are pretty hard to stun now. Look how much damage I'm going to do now with my tier 2 ant club once I actually start getting done from behind. Just a huge amount of damage with these. So given it's pretty hard to get the antlion sword, which you can make from their body parts until a bit later once you've killed them, I would say a tier 2 ant club maxed out with salt is going to be your best weapon to take these guys on. I tried every other weapon as well, including spears, and spears were okay as well. Like I said, there's no real worse weapon here, but for sure the ant club there was definitely doing the most damage compared to some of these others. But it's still relatively easy to use something like a spear. Now alongside the roamers, of course, we've got the ones that sit inside the entrances that you have to defeat if you want to access the caves. These have got a much larger health pool, but you can get and do a lot of damage if you get up super close. See how much I did with my spear before eventually I did get owned by this guy. Now these guys are super tough if you're trying to stay from distance. You can get attacked by the black ants that they'll throw at you, and they can also do an attack that actually slows you down. They'll ground pound the rest of the area and you see all the dirt coming out, and then that's going to affect you for around, I do believe, 10 seconds. You won't be able to sprint during that time, so the best thing you can do is just duck and take cover. If one of them ants hits you, it's going to take the majority of your health away. So it goes without saying that assault arrows are going to be the best, since they're the best abilities to put on your other tools, and so yeah, try and get assault arrows as much as possible. I flipped it back to creative mode just to show you the difference. Feather arrows do just maybe under a full grid's worth of damage. Fresh arrows pretty much do about the same, it's just about nearly under a grid. Same goes for spicy, it's pretty much exactly the same as the fresh arrows you can see. But look how much damage you do with salty arrows, over a grid's worth, nearly a grid and a half. So it's salty arrows all the way with these guys. I think it goes without saying that splat burst grenades are much easier to craft now that you can get lots of the eggs, but obviously they're still pretty valuable because you need them to break into rocks and stuff. So now is the time to start using just the regular burst grenades. These grenades are perfect for taking these guys out because you can pretty much lob them and they'll just simply roll down the hill. You don't have to worry about your aim too much, just throw, and yeah, they're going to do a good amount of damage, but it's still going to take maybe 4 or 5 of them to actually kill it. If you don't know, there's a brand new mace in the game, which is the Salt Mace. You can find the recipe in the Sunken Treasure in the sandbox area, and this is really good for defeating them. Because it is a one-handed weapon, you can use a decent shield with it, and yeah, this is, remember, unupgraded weapon that I'm using, and it's absolutely sorting them. Just show you also what you can do with a level 5 mint mallet. It still does a good amount of damage here, and of course you are doing extra stun damage. So I still think these are pretty viable. Pretty much any weapon you want, like I said, just make sure you use salt. The only thing I probably would avoid is daggers. Of course, if you've cleared enough of these out, then you might want to invest in a two-handed sword, which is simply one of the best weapons in the game. Put salt on this bad boy and you will rip into antlions like nobody's business. I'm not necessarily going to go through the parts you need to craft it. You realise that once you get one of them for the first time. Obviously you need to kill some antlions, but I do want to talk about some of the other uses of the armour. Basically, it helps you reload arrows quicker. Whether or not using the crossbow, tier 2 or tier 1, you will reload quicker when you've got all of the antlion on. You just saw me there unload 5 arrows pretty much, and I counted with my timer on my editor. That took 13 seconds to fire 5 arrows. Now let's see what happens without the armor set. Spoilers, it's meant to increase the reload speed, but actually I'm not seeing that at the moment with the crossbow. If there is an improvement, it's fractional. They both pretty much take 12-13 seconds to actually reload. Let's try and do something similar now with just a regular bow, and I'll carry on spamming it. So around 3 seconds to fire 3 arrows from the point I let go to the point I let go. Again, it doesn't seem to be that much difference. Again, this is a day before the updates hit. I'm hoping this will be corrected and fixed and you will see that improvement. Otherwise, it may be slightly faster, but it's in hundreds of seconds, not actually much quicker than that. Of course, the armour has got 3.5 defence on each piece, so that's pretty strong in terms of what it can defend with against. It is light armour as well, which means it's going to regenerate your stamina very much quicker than the medium or heavy. With the right mutations, you could build a massively OP build. Obviously, if you're using a hammer, then you go for the one that's going to give you extra hammer damage. If you're using blades, go for Blade Master, so it doesn't reduce your actual durability of your weapon. And then go for Parry Master as well. And the Coup de Grace as to just get that extra bit of critical hit chance. And if you're using bow and arrow, then you might as well go for Sharpshooter. That's going to give you more damage with all bow types. So yeah, at the moment, bows don't seem like they're that much better with the AntLion Armour, as I expect that to be buffed a little bit. So I would absolutely craft the AntLion sword first. There's different ways that you can negate the heat when you're running around the sandbox. You don't necessarily have to have the armor set to do that. And while it's good at the moment, I don't think its set bonuses are that amazing just yet. So do get the AntLion sword first, then focus on the armor sets afterwards. Let me know what you think about the AntLion stuff. Is it pretty decent? Is it good for you? What kind of builds are you going to be building? Let me know in the comment section. Like I said, go salty all the way on any weapons you've got while exploring and taking on the actual AntLions themselves. Until next time, ratbags, I'll be back with more guides, tutorials and grounded. I'll see you later.